It's verse 34. For every sense attachment and aversion are fixed in regard to the objects of that sense. Let no one come under their sway, for they are his two waylayers. So a true human is one who doesn't come under the sway of attachment and aversion to the senses and the sense objects, because they become obstacles in his development. So there's two concepts here, attachment and aversion. If a person gets pulled towards the objects of the senses, then this becomes an obstacle to his development. And on the other hand, if he gets repelled by the objects of the senses, then this also becomes an obstacle to his development. Therefore, attachment and aversion are both one's enemies. And Sri Krishna is saying this in this verse. Because through this practice, 4 flaws can arise, which we'll go on to look at in a moment. In particular, for example, with attachment, when one runs after the objects of your senses. For example, if one lives his life to enjoy all material pleasures, then his spiritual development will stop. And we may question why. Some people may gain happiness from the latest Ferrari or car, but in our scriptures it states that 4 flaws will arise because of this. The first one is because you forget your own greatness. Veer Savar wrote very beautifully that in Sanskrit, Anadi ni Ananta, me. And this means I have no beginning and I am great. But when a person runs after sensual pleasures, he forgets about his own greatness. He is actually a descendant of God, as it is said in the Vedas, Ayam he hasto Bhagwan, Ayam me hasto Bhagavatra. And he actually forgets this when he's running after material objects. The second flaw that comes is the illusion of incompleteness. This continues to pinch him. For example, he thinks he's incomplete, that he has flaws, and that something is not right. But this is actually an illusion, because you are complete. In Sanskrit, the sentence, Purna Madaha Purna Midam. The third flaw is that he begins to feel incomplete, and then this state comes where he starts to believe that there's nothing left in him and that there are others better than him. So it's an inferiority complex. He begins to start comparing himself to others. Wherever he looks, he sees those who have a better looks than him, or more money than him, or a better car, or more knowledge. Someone's family is better than his, another person's house is nicer than his. Another person's business is going better than his is. So such a person is constantly comparing himself to others, and it starts to begin to feel that he's inferior to others. He's constantly making comparisons. The fourth flaw is that he doesn't feel that happiness is in peace of mind, but that happiness is in objects and in material enjoyments. And this is why he's running after material objects and enjoyments. He goes away from peace of mind, and the sentence ashantasya hatasakam means a person that is not at peace can never be happy. And Sri Krishna says this in the 2nd chapter. A person that chases after mature enjoyments and materialistic enjoyments thinks in his mind that when he gets these enjoyments he'll be happy, but in fact these 4 examples show us that he won't. So I'll just repeat these 4 once again. The first is that he forgets his own greatness. The second is that he gets the illusion of incompleteness. The third is that he makes comparisons and begins to feel inferior. And the fourth is that he constantly changes material objects. In a process of running after these material enjoyments, he's going far away from happiness. The more he runs after these objects, the more he is away from happiness. Punit Maharaj said in a very simple way that a person becomes very sad for happiness, because he looks for these objects to make him happy, and his sorrows increase in this process. This is the state of someone who runs after material objects. This is what happens when you run after the objects of your senses. There are difficulties when you run after your sense objects, but there are also difficulties when you run away from the sense objects, because this also creates a disturbance. So therefore, both attachment and aversion are one's enemies. And Sri Krishna says that one should never become under their sway. Therefore, there is only one way for Arjun. If he can't run away from his senses, or he can't run towards them, the question you're probably asking himself is, what should he do? And Sri Krishna's answer says that he should follow his swadharma, which is his righteous duty. And he goes on to explain this in the next verse.